The wrestlers go into the ring from the dark director's booth. Just a doorway that was lit. The director's room was dark. And one day, as a wrestler was walking by, I saw this head. Apocalypse Now before them. And I looked, and it was this hairy face, and this guy, very intent. He looks at me, and he says, "You'd make a good German." And I cringed back into my darkness. The next week, the same thing. The next week, the same thing. "You'd make a good German." The face and the light. "You'd make a good German." Finally, little Jimmy Raschke got the courage to answer this person. And he said, "You'd make a good German." And I said, "Well, I haven't." Well, I said it more like, "Well, I haven't." Anyway, later he was just flying in and out of the territory, so I didn't get to talk to him. Anyway, a few weeks later he was in the territory. I was refereeing his match and all the matches on the card. And we got to talking in the dressing room, and he said, "You know, I could use a partner." The guy was Mad Dog Vachon, and he scooped me and my lovely bride away from the confines of Minnesota, where I would have probably stayed. Jimmy Raschke from Nebraska, who couldn't do an interview. Why did he do so shy? That's where he right. Anyway, we went to Montreal, Canada. And back then I was so naive, I didn't know that most of Canada is a French-speaking area, quite a bit. Anyway, Quebec is very much so. So there I am in a foreign land. Canada, English is the national language. French is also a national language. And luckily, the wrestling was geared to the French-speaking people who didn't know if I was speaking Ojibwe, German, or any other language. So I could practice what became my signature Deutschgesprach. And I had that freedom because I was far separated from where I started to the next place. And that's where I became the lovable Baron von Raschke. And that's how my career started. And from then on, it just kept going and going.
Hey, the same thing with me is, as I was up in North Bay, Canada, just a young kid, about third, fourth grade. And my brother and I went to wrestling matches. That night in North Bay, they had a packed house of about 3,500 people, and it was my father against that same guy. And that same guy, Mad Dog, and my father got out there, and they had such a riot that they had to play God Save the Queen to get everybody to stop fighting.
Well, I think the wrestling territory was great in the way that guys could travel from territory to territory and have a much longer